Now I'm very, very happy to introduce our next speaker, which is me. Now I'm putting my role as CEO of Access Israel, and very proud one with the project that we're doing. And on a personal note, I will start and say that, I came to Access Israel 17 years ago. And I thought I'm coming for a 2-year gig and moving on to my next thing. And it's like mud. You can't get rid of it. You're just stuck in it. And I'm enjoying every bit of it. But the amazing thing is things all the time develop. And it's amazing to see what causes these developments. And I can tell you that when the war broke in Ukraine, Yuval called me up and basically said, if it would have happened to me here, I would give up. I wouldn't even try. And that's what made it clear to me and to him that this is what Access Israel needs to focus on. It doesn't matter, as what he said, it doesn't matter where it's happening. As Zero Project says, barrier-free world. We're here to help each other, to share with each other. And this is what I'm going to present to you now. Luckily, I'm in charge of time, so I guess we're going to sit and hear me for quite a while now. Let's see. So, do you see now, Shelley, the right thing we want to see?
We do, but yeah, now we see it.
Perfect. Very good. So, purple vest. For those who cannot see, the purple vest logo is a hand with the symbol, international symbol for people with disabilities, colored purple, reaching out and lifting up. That's the purple vest with pictures, smiling pictures of purple vesters in Ukraine, in Israel, in action. And we're very proud of that. When you think about it, doesn't matter where you live, at what moment you're looking at, because anywhere, anytime, to any one of us, emergency can occur. Just the last 3-4 years, we've had extreme heat waves and wildfires and cold waves and earthquakes and war. And it can happen anywhere to anyone. And guess what? It's bad and it's tough and it's devastating for everyone. But what we have been talking about throughout the last 2 hours, in times of emergency for people with disabilities, it is tougher. In a survey by UNDRR, we're talking about 61 to 74% of people with disabilities who are struggling to evacuate independently, especially in sudden crises. This is the percentage of people who are saying, even if you come and tell us in advance, this is still a problem. We cannot do it independently. Now, you remember, everyone, the purple lights lighting up all the building monuments around the world, the Taj Mahal, the Empire State Building, Eiffel Tower, with a message, leaving no one behind. The same went for December 2021, but 3 months later, the war broke in Ukraine, and guess what? They were left behind. If we take even the policy or the procedure that whoever came to the border in Ukraine had to get off the bus 2 kilometers from the border, start walking in the ice, in the snow, whether they were with wheelchairs or elderly, they had to walk for 1.5 to 2 kilometers to reach the border, process, stand in line, and go out and look for a ride. Not a lot of accessible rides, I can tell you. That was the fact. There were solutions, generic solutions that did not fit all. And people with disabilities, it's a fact. They are left behind in many cases around the world, even in countries that are considered very advanced in accessibility. In times of emergency, they are not sitting around the table. And let's face it, guys, their challenge is greater. And we need to understand that generic does not work, and we need to understand their vulnerability and extra concern. In a survey we did after the war broke here in Israel, we were wondering what are the top concerns in times of emergency for people with disabilities. And I can tell you the top 3 were, first of all, hearing alerts. We're talking about 50, 60, 60 something, 62% that are really concerned with not hearing alerts, whether it's sirens, whether it's announcements, when there's no electricity in other places all over the world. People go around with cars and sirens. People elderly or people with difficulty of hearing will not be able to hear it. That's a big concern. The second is information that is fitting people with disability, that is adapted for them and accessible in accessible formats. And of course, the mental support is also a great concern. Now, when we formed the Purple Vest mission, we basically took the purple from the lights of December 3rd and put them on vests, saying, the message of leave no one behind, let's put it on a vest, knowing that anyone wearing such a vest knows how to identify, how to communicate, and how to assist people with all types of disability in times of emergency. And we started it in Ukraine with trainings that we did both face-to-face when we came to refugee centers or digitally through Zoom for people who are on the ground. And the Purple Vest basically became a methodology for accessible emergency management on a local, on a national, and on a global scale. It includes awareness to inclusion, which we prefer to do even in advance because preparedness is the key. Information that is life-saving. The website we have is in 6 languages of the UN, plus in Ukraine, in Turkish, and we, of course, add more languages as we go along and assist emergencies over the world. Training, taking that human factor and turning them into the human ramp. That's a basic key. Volunteers from all over that are really, changing their mindset and really receiving the tools to assist in times of emergency. If we're talking about the earthquake that happened in Turkey, the first responders were the neighbors, with the teenagers living just next to you that are coming there. Do they know how to communicate with you? Do they know how to find you, how to assist you? That is part of the training. And of course, a professional task force. In Ukraine, we had people on the ground in Ukraine all over after being trained to really assist and help. I can tell you that in Ukraine, we evacuated almost 4,000 people. The tough cases, those who needed to be evacuated in a horizontal way, and assisted more than 10,000, because one of the lessons that I learned in that beginning of Purple Vest is that leaving no one behind doesn't mean you're forcing your opinion on them and you're taking them out no matter what. Leaving no one behind means leaving no one behind, even if they choose to stay behind. We still need to make sure they have what it needs. Now, Access Israel is operating in Israel for the last 24 years, promoting accessibility, physical services, and of course, social and technology. And we're doing everything we can. And from beginning to end, you have to have the sequence of accessibility. What happens when that sequence is broken? Something is not accessible. We fight, we do, we promote, we change. In times of emergency, sometimes that's life. That's the fact. The sequence is broken. And you need that purple vest gap of finding solutions, out of the box solutions, human factor solutions that will enable that sequence to continue. We're not looking for perfect accessibility, but we definitely are looking still for accessibility from beginning to end. And I will share with you in one of the meetings, and I won't say with whom, but in one of the meetings, somebody who is very strong on refugees and assistance in times of emergency globally, listened to me and around this point said to me, don't you think accessibility in times of emergency is a luxury? And I can tell you that for me, it took me a second to breathe because, I'm out there shouting and leading this initiative. And for someone to ask that, someone who's so into assisting in times of emergency to ask that left me in shock. And now my answer to her, who gives you the luxury to decide in advance that people with disabilities, elderly, the largest minority in the world, will not have a chance. So no, it's not a luxury, and we have to make sure it happens. Now, because I am also the timekeeper, then I'll be good, and I'll try to speed a little bit in these next slides. Purple Vest model has three parts. One is the preparedness, the beginning. The second is the real-time assistance when we're in that emergency time. And the last is the aftermath accessibility. Under preparedness, and I'll run it fast, we're basically looking at 5 factors. One is information. Information has to be there in advance, prepared, thought through, while having people with disabilities around the table, while having them, part of the team, of the thinking tank. And information has to be out there in accessible formats. Human factor, as I said, training. The more you train before, the easier you will have while an emergency occurs. I can tell you, Shelley, who's on this, leading this team, great team I have besides me, has trained from the beginning of the war over 750 Purple Vesters that have joined the Access Israel Purple Vest Initiative here in Israel. Physical barriers, in many countries, we see the procedures, the processes, choosing, refugee centers to go to in case of emergency. Don't just choose the places that are good with transportation, that are good with size. Choose them also with accessibility in mind. That's just one example. Communication barriers. You're going to send out notices. How? In what way? Make sure the solutions are accessible. Make sure the community who is having problems with communication, have communication barriers, know the solutions you're offering, feel comfortable with it, and will be available immediately. And of course, the systematic barriers, as I said, procedures, regulations, laws, everything we have to prepare in advance and make sure they are fitting scenarios and they are fitting accessibility needs. And you won't be able to do it if you don't have people with disabilities sitting at the table. Real-time assistance. This is, as I said, a sequence. I can tell you that at the beginning, we thought the sequence starts from information, the personal contact, talking to the people, seeing them, not as an Excel row in a sheet, but really looking at the people themselves. And of course, evacuating in an accessible way, transportation, finding a place, understanding the needs. We thought it stops there. Today, we know the sequence continues. It's not enough to bring people to safety. You have to make sure their needs are met after that, because basically you're taking them out of the place they're used to live, out of their communities, and many times for a long time. I mean, I met my Turkish friends just last month at Zero Project, and the tent villages are still up and running after the earthquake that occurred a year ago. So we need to make sure that the assistance, real-time assistance, continues with essential needs, with ongoing contact, understanding that these are new communities that are not natural communities, that we need to make sure community-wise they're up and running and feel good about the place they're going. And of course, once you're back, transitioning back is still a stage in the sequence. Make sure the transition is well. And I can tell you one of the most touching SMSs I received was a girl, 14-year-old girl telling me, your method works because it's the first time I ever felt not transparent, that people saw me, people saw my mother in a wheelchair and helped us the way we needed it. This is what it's all about. Sorry. Okay. The last stage is the aftermath accessibility. Reconstruction has to be by design. This is something that we are already working on here in Access Israel. And I'm working on with my Ukrainian friends in many webinars, many consultations that we are doing. And they're doing such an incredible job. And I see the involvement. And I am here very happy and very proud to be part of whoever can help. Rebuilding is not just physical. Let's remember the human factor, the people themselves, those injured, those with PTSD. We have to make sure they're taken care of and thought of at the end. Temporary is no excuse. As I said, the tent village in Turkey is still there, and it's going to be there for quite a while. Let's make sure it's accessible from the beginning and not excusing ourselves and saying, oh, it's just temporary, so you don't have to. And of course, spreading the word. And here I mentioned the Nippon Foundation. I mentioned Senaka. I can tell you that one of the amazing calls, if there are people here connected to philanthropy, to foundations, the fact that you reach out at the right time with the right, what do you need? And how can we help? And here you go. This is what makes a difference. This enables, as we heard before in David's presentation, the civil society is there, knows what to do. Let's give them the power to do it. So to sum it up, last slide. Purple Vest, look at the mirror. It's not talking about them, what happens in other countries, what happens in other cruise ships, what happens in other places. Let's look in the mirror and understand it can happen to anyone at any point. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's a picture of a wheel here. Don't reinvent the wheel. There are amazing initiatives in every country. Get those initiatives. Reach out to them. Maybe some fine tuning is needed. Maybe some Purple Vest training is needed. But once the amazing combinations are done, this will work, and it works immediately. Connect the dots. Make those connections. 1 + 1 = 10. No one can do it on its own. It's a collaborative effort. And of course, listen. Don't just hear what is said. Don't just hear what people with disabilities say. Listen to them and make sure you customize and personalize every step of the way. Only together we will make sure no one is left behind. That concludes my presentation, and I will stop sharing here. And I will say to myself, great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing. Of course, anyone here who wants to join, who wants to reach out, who wants to be a Purple Vester initiator in their country, reach out. This is what we're here for. And as I said, Senaka is helping us to really share globally. So we're here for you.